I've watched over the last several years after Robert and them closed the camp meetings down in Olds, Iowa, and I love to go to them and just feel the waves of the glory in that cornfield. You know, I mean, just glory of God in the cornfields, Iowa. And I've watched the struggle over the breakthrough.
Yeah, the breakthrough. The breakthrough.
There's a breakthrough.
Yes,
I just this year, there's a breakthrough happening. So I've seen it. I've seen the camp meetings kind of struggle, and I've participated in several of them, and I think there's a new direction happening, and I think you got it on track there. I think it's happening.
Yeah. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I see a breakthrough. Praise God. Well, praise the Lord.
Yes.
Man, I think we've already had church.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sherm's a hard act to follow. I mean, praise God. Man, he's doing a great job. I'm really proud of Sherman and what he's doing and serving the Lord. And man, I'm excited what God's doing.
Yes. Amen.
I am excited what God's doing and
Me too.
in my life.
Yeah.
What God's doing in my life.
Yeah.
You know, I've sat and watched for years how God has blessed other people's ministry and God has expanded them. And I was like, God, what about me?
Come on.
Yeah.
What about me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I struggled with a lot of problems. I'm going to say a lot of idols in my life. We seem to struggle with a lot of idols in the message today. I never title messages. I don't usually speak in front of people too much. I speak in front of offenders. I don't speak a lot to the church. And Lord had given me a title, and it says, when your altars become idols. When your altars become idols. I have watched over the years. I grew up as a PK, and I have watched over the years where we become more idol worship than altar seekers. And how we built our altars, and we end up worshiping our altars
Right.
instead of the living God that produced them. And Jesus said, you put your faith upon it because it touched the altar, or it touched this, or it's done that. Whenever it's God who made the temple holy, it's God who made the temple holy.
That's right.
And we put our trust in our religion sometimes more than we put our trust in God.
Right.
Sometimes.
That's right.
Praise God. Pastor Dwayne had to mention my little segment I did, and I wished I'd never said it. It's kind of embarrassing, but I was feeling it. I was feeling it. You know, I was on my way to camp meeting yesterday, and I got to Jeff City, and when I get to Jeff City, I start getting excited because that's usually the end of my leg of my journey. About 85 miles from home, I go to Algoa Prison, and I spend a lot of time there, and that's usually the end of my journey. So I get excited when I get to Jeff City because I've made it. My old car, it's got 360,000 miles on it, and I sometimes, like I did yesterday morning, I went out and I prayed over my truck. I don't know if you ever had to pray over them old cars, but my truck's got 298,300 miles. It likes, you know, and so I laid hands on that old truck the other morning, and my dog's looking at me like, what are you doing with your truck? And I'm praying over that truck. And I often do this because I went up to APEP, last month, and I got out there and I wanted to pray over that truck because you just don't know what that truck's been through. And so I'm praying over that truck. But I got to Jeff City yesterday, and I just felt the glory of the Lord in my soul. And I was heading to camp meeting once again. And I was going to be with the friends. And, you know, it's relationships that we build that sometimes keeps us motivated and keeps us going.
Yes.
And because, you know, me and Brother Bob was talking about it earlier, how we built relationships out in the world, and we watched them relationships do nothing but be a snare unto us. A snare unto us. Last Saturday, I had to spend my Saturday in prison doing training. This Saturday actually was AACC, Algo Correctional Center, was supposed to do where I home base at. And I had this plan for 6 months now, and there wasn't no way I was going to miss it. And so they ended up having an option. We could go to JCCC, which is across the road. Bob, you know where all this is. You guys been to Algoa and around there, you and Roy and your dad, I guess. And so I ended up last Saturday, I went into JCCC, and I had never been in there. It's a max. And got to do my training, and we did our first hour and a half. 9:30 come along, and we was done with the first session, and the people who did the training online got to leave. Well, I didn't know we had that option yet. They've been talking about that option, but I didn't know we had that option. Well, I hadn't done any online training, so I had to stay till 1:30 for the rest of the training. Well, these other people, they all left. There was about 40 some of us, and a lot of these people left. There was down to 6 of us. So they thought we was going to have about 30 for lunch, and we were 6 of us. So they had catered food and chicken, whatever, you know how we like to eat. But anyway, they had a big spread for us, and here it is, 6 of us plus the chaplain and the AIC, and so we're just we're down to just, a little group. And so we have lunch, and we come back in, and I seen some offenders in the room, and I didn't know what they was doing in there. But they taught the last segment of our training. And there was 4 offenders, and they took turns, and they kind of about how to watch for tricks of the trade, how they manipulate. And so they did the training the last hour, and they also wanted to thank us for being VICs and coming in to prison, because we are what brought the gospel and made a difference into their lives. And as each one of them got up, Jeff, they come forward and they said, I'm offender so-and-so, I murdered a guy outside of a bar, I've got a life sentence. And he talked a little bit about himself, and all these men looked young to me because they was all like 40, 45, 35. Next guy comes up and he goes, I'm serving 2 life sentences. I killed 2 guys somewhere, and a robbery or something went bad, and I'm doing 2 life sentences. And the next guy, each one of them was murderers. They was all doing life in prison. But they didn't look like they was in prison. There's a difference when you're locked in prison and when you're in a prison. I've got guys that I work with in the chapel when I'm doing my volunteer chaplain day, and I've got a staff of about 6, 7 guys that runs the library and different things, and people coming in and out all day, and I work with them, and they're the Christian leaders of the prison. And I went in last Tuesday, and they've got a class called New Beginnings, and it's offender-led for new Christian offenders. There's a lot of services that go on, and there's a lot of people who come in and they preach, and people give their lives to the Lord, but there's no follow-up on it a lot of times, because they come, when you do a service, you got 2-hour clips usually. You're in, you're out. And I heard a guy at APEP, he was talking about, well, I go to prison, but I don't get to follow up on them. I don't know what they're doing. And I thought, I do. I get to, because I'm chaplain on certain days. I'm volunteer. So I sit in the throne of the chaplain's seat, and they come in and I counsel them, or I talk to them, and I hear their tragedies. And sometimes I can't, I'm tied with what I can do for these men. But I'll sometimes pull out the bottle of oil and I'll pray for them and anoint them with oil, and they'll sit and bawl and cry and bawl and cry. And the next time I'm there, they're running back to get more. The next time they know I'm working, they got a calendar out there and they know I'm coming. And so they come in and I see the tragedy of people's lives of brokenness.
Yes.
Of brokenness.
Yes.
And it's very painful. I tell you, it's very painful when you work with men and you'd like to just take them home with you, get them jobs and let them stay in your camp, or matter of fact, I got one guy that is getting out recently. He's coming to Lebanon, and so I'm working to see about getting him into a church. He specifically wants something with a certain program. And so I'm looking for that, because he's worked in the prison with them programs, and he wants to teach, because he teaches in prison. He wants to teach when he gets back out. And so getting them active. And I said, well, what about your brother? He says, I'm going to go stay with my brother. And I said, what about your brother? Where's he go to church? He don't go to church. So we got to get him involved, because his brother's liable to be a snare unto him. And so, you got to have people on the outside who's got on the inside. Now, I'm very limited to what I can do outside. I'm very limited to what I can do.
Right.
But I want to read something here. I seen something the other night, and it touched me. We've been. Somebody said Ginnings a while ago. I seen that card here, and then Sherman preached, talking about the Marines and different things. And the other night I was watching. I love history stuff, and I don't know a whole lot about the wars, but I was watching something and it really caught my eye. It says here, of a concern to the Allies were German 155 millimeter artillery positioned on Point du Hoc. I know I'm pronouncing that wrong, but they could wreak havoc on Utah and Omaha Beach. Lieutenant Colonel James E. Rudder commanded the 2nd Ranger Battalion, receiving the mission to land at 6:30 a.m., scaling 100-foot cliffs and disabling the German position. What caught my eye about this is at the top of this now stands a monument of a dagger. Of a dagger. And there's a picture on the internet. If you want to go there, you can see it. I seen it on TV the other night. I had to go there to look. And so on this top of this place, it's one of the most visited peaks. It's where the point comes together in Omaha Beach and the other beach where they was going to land on D-Day. These guys went in, and their job was to take out the big guns. And there was about 225 Rangers tasked, elite men that had special training, and they come in with ropes, and they come in with just bare necessities to climb this 100-foot wall, this 100-foot cliff face. And they shot harpoons and different things into the face of the walls and rope ladders, and they started scaling these, and the Germans were tossing down. Everything was going wrong. Just everything was going wrong. But they were scaling these rock walls, and the Germans were throwing down the grenades and shooting them, cutting their ladders, and they just kept coming, and they kept coming until they run out of ladders. And the monument was there. The monument for the dagger was because they got so far up that the ladders were cut from them. They would take their daggers and they was putting it into that face of that rocks.
Wow.
and that cliff.